We're back right here with the Tyler Werner Show as we move into the free agency period in the NFL. March Madness coming up, of course. NCAA college basketball. And, of course, the big news coming out this week is, so far with free agency for the Philadelphia Eagles, is that Sam Bradford has been re-signed to the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, after his one-year deal last year, $15 million deal, Sam Bradford is back with the Philadelphia Eagles, agreeing to a 2-year deal. And, again, I've been steadfast in the offseason, for the most part, since the season basically ended and Doug Peterson became the new head coach, or even before he became the head coach. Whoever the coach was going to be, more likely than not, that Sam Bradford would be the best option for the Philadelphia Eagles, I guess, going forward. It's basically what I said. We had the scouting combine last week, and even before the scouting combine, people were saying, why don't they get another quarterback instead? And it's just one of these things where, well, who are you going to get that's at least going to better serve you the next couple of years? I don't think anybody's putting Super Bowl expectations on the Philadelphia Eagles the next couple of years at all. But with Sam Bradford, at least it gives you your best chance of competing. You can build a team around him. It seems like on defense, obviously they locked in Fletcher Cox, their franchise defensive player. Of course, there's some other pieces. They're moving to a 4-3. Seems like they might move on from Nolan Carroll, perhaps. I don't know, maybe. Eric Rowe was a rookie last year, obviously, and certainly it showed, but hoping guys like him can pan out. Obviously, Jordan Hicks coming back after a season-ending injury, showing some promise in the linebacker position. Defense solid. They got obviously a run, what can be a run-centric offense, maybe a little more so this year with DeMarco Murray, of course, at the forefront. You should be a fairly fresh DeMarco Murray after, seeing basically he had less than half the carries even that he had in his big season in Dallas, where he led the league in rushing yards. Obviously you got Zach Ertz at tight end, locked in, kind of like a franchise tight end, it seems, for the next several years. They got some improvements to be made, perhaps, with the wide receiver position, obviously. Nelson Aguilar, we'll see how high his ceiling is. I don't see him as a game-breaking receiver by any means, but by all means, hope they can draft somebody. You see, obviously they got to improve the offensive line too. That's kind of, the most obvious thing that they have to do.
I agree.
But the bottom line is, as far as the best chance for success at this time is Sam Bradford. And that's basically what they did. Re-signed Sam Bradford to a 2-year deal. 2-year, $36 million. $26 million guaranteed. So, you're looking at, 18 a year. So that's not bad. They didn't have to franchise tag him. It didn't seem like other teams were, in the market were lining up to sign Sam Bradford. So I think it kind of worked out for the Philadelphia Eagles. And if anybody's, obviously, for one thing, the salary cap went up again this year, of course. Several $1 million. So that's one thing. It's a 2-year deal. It's not a 4 or 5 year deal. So they're not, long term, they're not really locked into Sam Bradford. This also, frees them to say maybe they do draft a quarterback in this year's draft, or maybe even the next year. That quarterback probably, theoretically, probably need to sit a year or two anyways, maybe to prepare, adjust to the NFL game. Probably not going to get a quarterback out of the draft who's ready to play anyways. So there is that option too, that you draft a guy this year or next year while Sam Bradford's the starter, and then maybe groom him to be the future quarterback after that 2-year deal. Or if Sam Bradford's lighting it up and he's staying healthy, then maybe they extend the deal. But that remains to be seen. But again, if not, good chance that you draft a quarterback one of the next 2 seasons anyhow, and there might be a guy for the future. So it's like, the way I look at it, everyone kind of wins here. For those who were, I guess, hesitant to have Sam Bradford get signed to a long-term deal, or just signed in general by the Philadelphia Eagles again, well, I mean, it's 2 years. But still, you can still, again, draft the quarterback, maybe for the future. Whether they, those will be better options than Sam Bradford in the long run, I guess that remains to be seen. And, 2 years from now or whatever, that would be their decision to make. But for now, the bottom line is, as far as there's nobody really that you can look at that the Eagles would realistically be able to draft and have them start right away. So, again, Sam Bradford sticking around for another couple of years, it looks like, for the Philadelphia Eagles. And, again, quite frankly, I think that's a good thing. Of course, a few weeks ago, I mentioned here on the Tyler Werner Show that Doug Peterson said in an interview with none other than Mike Missanelli that we will find, we will essentially have the best quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles team. That's the bottom line. And of course, there was the topic of price was brought up by Mike Missanelli essentially, and maybe Doug Peterson wasn't cracking or whatever, but essentially, at least Mike Missanelli got that out of him, that signed the best quarterback available.
You got a cucumber in your rectum? Loosen up!
So, essentially, that's where Doug Peterson left it at the time. That we will, at the end of the day, we will have the best quarterback. And that's what I was saying. Well, logically speaking, that's Sam Bradford right now at this point, as far as I'm concerned. No Nick Foles, of course.
That pisses me off.
No settling, no assuming that Mark Sanchez will be an apt starter next year, or drafting somebody else. So, I think the Eagles made the right move here. And especially so that they didn't ink this long 4 or 5 year deal. So I think all is well as far as that is concerned. And, it's the beginning of free agency, so we'll see how things pan out. But we got a bit of a topic wheel here on the Tyler Werner Show to kind of get around to different topics in the coming weeks, or the coming days in the Tyler Werner Show, however, such as, it was kind of a couple weeks ago, but Terrell Owens, who should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, hands down. Anybody disagree with that?
I agree.
I know the whole argument, and this is where guys like Skip Bayless argued against Terrell Owens being inducted in this year's Hall of Fame. Yeah, maybe T.O. gets in next year, but for the sake of conversation, number 2 wide receiver all time in yards, number 3 in touchdowns. Not to mention, I mean, it's safe to say here, as far as Eaglesville goes, that had maybe we gotten a little better, I don't know, maybe more prepared quarterback performance amongst other positions in the team during the 2004 Super Bowl, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles would have been Super Bowl champs. And Terrell Owens could have very well have been the MVP of that game. I mean, what, he was coming off a broken ankle or whatever, or whatever it was, and it wasn't even like likely that he was going to play, and so it was like a miracle that he even played in the Super Bowl, and he still had like 11 receptions in that game. It was like, you know, coming back sooner than he was, and still like showed up for the game and had a decent game. Even not at 100%. I mean, you know, T.O. was still kind of lighting it up in that game. I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things where had the Eagles won that Super Bowl and T.O. would have been, you know, a very realistic MVP candidate for that game, it's one of those things where, like, all right, had he won that Super Bowl, you can't really argue against him not getting in the Hall of Fame this year. But I say, you know, and again, people, you know, he was a locker room cancer, this and that. At the end of the day, he was a game-breaking receiver. I mean, he's one of the best all time. And there's no way you can convince me that he was that much of a cancer that, again, I mean, he was the missing piece to that Eagles team that lifted him to the next level to that Super Bowl and almost could have won that Super Bowl. And clearly it wasn't, you can't really point any fingers. You know, where was the locker room cancer aspect that year when the Eagles went 13-3 or whatever and went to the Super Bowl? Now, the offseason, maybe things, you know, but it's one of those things. If you're going to sign a guy like T.O., you know how he was back in the day. You kind of have to, you know, prepare for. You kind of have to know that you're going to have to cater to him a little more. That's just the way it is. There's a lot of wide receivers in the NFL that have been like that over the years. And maybe with T.O. it was magnified because he was T.O. and the whole mystique about him. But at the end of the day, I think he should have gotten in this year to the Hall of Fame. Now, maybe he will next year, obviously, but and I mean, there's some wide receivers with more inferior stats to T.O. as it is that have gotten in easy. So it just sometimes it doesn't add up. Sometimes the system is a little flawed when it comes to the NFL Hall of Fame, but nevertheless, T.O. not in this year.
It's really unfair.
And I would agree with that. But yeah, he'll get in. He'll get in at some point. Of course, as far as the whole, Flyers season, I mean, I don't know. I was hopeful that maybe they were going to be maybe a 7th or 8th seed this year, but of course, much of the same issues. Although they got Gosh Spear, maybe signs of hope for the future. I don't know, but it hurts when, again, sometimes the whole mentality with dropping the gloves, a couple weeks ago against the New York Rangers right out of the chute, where Wayne Simmons, one of your top players, immediately gets in a fight, basically gets put in a situation where one of your better players is now, involved in a fight early in the game, maybe hampering him the rest of the game. Whereas the New York Rangers, it's just basically a goon that gets in a fight and not a very productive player, and may have very well cost you the game, and quite frankly led to a goal early in the game for the other team. I don't know. It's just much of the same, and it's disappointing that the Flyers, it seems like they've been hanging around all season long, but at the end of the day, just a mediocre team, not worthy enough for the playoffs. And quite frankly, hopefully next year that changes, but we'll have to wait and see. And finally, I just want to say, LaShawn McCoy, just stay out of Philadelphia at this point. I mean, please.
Get out! Get out!
I mean, there's still some details coming out of the whole case and whatnot, but it just seems like wherever he goes, it seems like trouble follows him. I don't know. It's just like this dark cloud. And now that he's not playing, especially since he hasn't been playing for the Eagles now, and this whole situation with, off-duty cops comes down and over a champagne bottle and whatnot, and I gotta,
Man's got to know his limitations.
That's all all I would really have to say at this point. And then last summer, of course, it was the whole stupid private party thing or whatever, and it's just like, all right, at this point, get out of Philly. Come on, this is getting old. It all started with the baby mama drama and the not tipping anything at a restaurant or whatever, and now it's stuff like this. It's coming out in the city of Philadelphia, and it's just getting old. Now it's just like, please move to Buffalo. Period. In the off time, your off season time or whatever. It's just, I don't know. It's just getting old, really. And with that in mind, I guess for now, maybe this edition of the Tyler Werner Show, this short segment here, is getting old. No, but anyhow, we're moving through the free agency period. Of course, the month of March for the Philadelphia Eagles. A big free agency, a big offseason, as always. And again, move number one, priority number one, to me, shore up the quarterback position for now, best you can. And that was Sam Bradford. And that's what the Eagles did. So I commend, I don't know if I want to say I commend them for doing that, because to me it was kind of just the most logical move. So I sort of commend, if that makes any sense, the Eagles for doing what I think is the right thing. And that was re-signing Sam Bradford. And it wasn't it wasn't an incredibly large sum of money. It wasn't several years. It was a couple, 2 years. So all is well, I think, as far as that goes. We'll see what other moves be made for the Philadelphia Eagles in the free agency period. Thanks for tuning in as always. Stay tuned right here for more on the Tyler Werner Show.
Number one box office attraction, number one WWE superstar, multi-time WWE champion, Brock Lesnar.
Time to revamp your office space, eh? Looking for an interior decorator? Look no further than Brock Lesnar.
Now that's the way a real man uses a sledgehammer.
Out with the old, in with the new. Give Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman a call.
Mr. Lesnar, you are the future interior decorator. Ellie, we're done.
Hi there, I'm Hank Hill. Well, I'd like to tell you what Strickland can do to meet your energy needs. You see, at Strickland, the customer comes first. It's kind of interesting. The word customer begins with CU. Well, we don't see you as just another sale, but as a member of our team. I thought you might enjoy 7.5 gallons of pure premium propane. Strickland Propane, the customer comes first.